Well. I think we've started here, man.
Have we started?
Oh yeah, we started. Should I hit the button?
Yeah, hit the button.
Welcome to the Dev and
Hit the
Gamer
button.
podcast with K Mega 405,
Hit
the
it.
Don KTR.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good, right? So
Yeah, yeah. So are we live?
yeah, we're live. That's the
Oh,
live
okay,
button.
okay. Well, see, you can't just see. Look, okay. As the person that is, when you are in control of the buttons, you gotta you gotta prompt somebody something. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, that sounds good," because I don't know what the hell is going on. I can't see you press the button.
Oh.
So, welcome everybody
K Mega
to
just shows he doesn't have his notifications turned on for my channel, so that's
no.
what
I'm
that
just saying,
was.
no. I do have notifications on. I just don't see them because I get a whole bunch of notifications that pops up, and then they usually pop up on my phone, and so I'm really bad at looking at my phone. Um, because I'm not out in the streets anymore. I'm not looking for the late night hype. I'm a married man now, so
you're
you know what I'm saying.
you're a
That was
broken man, is what you're saying.
I'm a broken man, so you know what I'm saying. Now I still will not get that Apple Ring. I don't know what that is.
Apple what?
There's an Apple Ring. Um, I posted it on Twitter. I think it was last night,
Hmm.
and it was basically the ring will track where your partner is. It's a wedding ring. It's a wedding ring, but it's made from by Apple, and will track where your partner is, and it will alert the other person when that ring is taken off. So, no,
Wow, that's
yeah, no,
that's a
that's a big
whole
brother.
nother level, man.
That's a whole nother level.
Man,
Like, I
I
mean,
don't
if
know
my
if
wife
I can hang with that.
if my
That's
wife presented me that as a gift for our anniversary or whatever, then I'm just going to look at her like, you need to take that back and get your money back because I'm not putting that on. You know what I'm saying? If you
yeah.
can't trust me by this time, then there should be no trust in the situation because I'm not going to give you anything. That's some people need their privacy to some degree, but
Yeah.
but me and my wife always
Yeah,
see each
she'll
other
be
like a
spying
little
on you. I'm like, why are you taking your
gossip.
wedding ring off at the Baskin and Robbins, right? So
Right? Yeah. Like, why are you at your homeboy's house with your ring off? Like, what? Anyway, that's ridiculous. Apple's going to cause some problems. That's what they're going to do. But anyway,
oh, they've already been
welcome.
involved in so many problems as it is.
Oh
They
man,
don't see that line, man. It's just a slippery slope for them. Slippery slope.
slippery slope. All right, so welcome. I got double duty tonight, or this evening. So I better be quick instead of doing all the rambling. I will say this though, I've gotten started playing Yakuza again. I was thinking that I beat this one, but I did not. Like, because the last time that I beat it, it was a long time ago. So I think it was Kwame. I think that was the name of it. Well, that wasn't the name of it at the time. I do not believe when I played it on the PlayStation 2. But I'm playing Type Zero, so that's a prequel. The game is, you know what? There's some things about it that I do not like, and there's some things about it that I love. The story is absolutely amazing, and I think I like the guy with the eye patch more than I like the original. Well, his storyline more than the original other guys, which he's like the main protagonist throughout the whole series. But guy with the eye patch story is really really good. I'm loving that. But um, right, let's get started, man. How you been, Don? What's been going on? What you been playing?
Man, I think last night, just out of convenience, I played a little Halo Infinite. The first time it's worked correctly for me in
Yeah.
I don't know, like months. So it's got some legs on it when it works, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
And then Xbox just released a patch for Big Team Battle and everything, like literally sometime today already. So I'll be curious to just kind of see how it all plays out because we did try a Big Team Battle, I think, before you hopped in, and it was
Mm.
people. Well, everyone had a different experience that was in the fire team. Let's just say that. So some people got kicked out entirely. Bot felt like it was time to brag about his internet at the time. So
Oh man, good grief. Oh man.
and you and I know how we feel about East Coast internet. It's lacking.
Oh, oh,
It's
yeah. That cracking is lacking.
that
Yeah,
that
there's no
there's
doubt.
no doubt about that. So yeah, it was it was a good time doing that, all that sort of stuff. I'm kind of working through Gunk right now. Like, it's not a very big game, but I just haven't had a lot of time to play. So I think almost done with it. So I need to finish Gunk. Probably going to finish that tomorrow, and then
What do you
uh,
think about it so far?
I think it's interesting. I
Mhm.
I think it's one of those things that, I don't know, in the creative space. I think a lot of times marketing people get in the way of the creativity of making games. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And I don't
Mhm.
think that's the type of game that would have you pitched to a big publisher and they would have said yes to it for a multitude of different reasons.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that.
Exactly. So the independent crowds, holding it down and keeping things creative and that sort of thing. So, and I think I just felt like it was genuine. Like, some of the subject matters they touched on, it wasn't like, sometimes in culture people kind of shoehorn stuff in. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Or
Oh, yeah.
we have to hit this check mark and that check mark the way, they appeal to certain crowds. No, they just wanted to do a story that was centered around this, that was in this space. And I think they did a good job with that. And I think that's how you kind of handle, I think, diversity in games. You don't talk about it, you just do it. Does that make sense? Like,
Oh, yeah.
let's
Yeah.
preach about it and just say, you know what, this is a story I wanted to do. This is the game I
Mhm.
wanted to do. And you're not trying to preach to people. I think it's people hate being preached to no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Like, that's when people are just like, just shut up. That's when people like are not very accepting. So I think they just handle it very, very well. And I think that's the thing that should be commended most about that game, is the fact that they really are taking a risk and they believe in their own product and they told a story that they wanted to tell. And I think that's fine. I think,
Yeah. No.
when I look at
Yeah, no, I
diversity
totally
of
agree.
games, I look at diversity of game modes, game types, what stories you want to tell. It doesn't have to be everything. You can't shove every single category or person into one game. It just doesn't work, right? You just do the things you feel like you're passionate about, and you do those. And I think good products come from it. So I think it's a byproduct of that. And I hope more creators kind of see that. And I hope, honestly, more publishers see these independent developers find success in these areas and stop trying to do like games painted by numbers on these sort of subjects, and just let the creators do what they're doing. Because if we talk about gatekeepers in the industry, it's really marketing people, and they're kind of the majority of the problem, to be honest with you. So
Yeah. 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 Like, that's the one thing about it now is that when like you said, they don't want to take risks. They want to put themselves in a position to where they're looking at it. Well, how can we make the most money? What's the most appealing thing out there for what people see or what people play that makes money? And the creativity gets taken away. And yes, that's the indie space is going to be a very huge space, especially like if we've talked about, if you've alluded to a million times about what Unreal Engine is going to offer.
yeah,
Plus, just the sense of like you could get these type of games like the Ascent always comes to my mind about how good that game looks, but it's like wow, this is a indie title,
yeah.
and we're going to see more and more
You've seen
amped
my
up. I mean,
shit
I
behind
said
the
all the time.
scenes.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
seen my
yeah,
shit
yeah.
behind the
So,
scenes. Does it hold up to AAA as far as what you've seen out there?
oh yeah,
Is it
absolutely,
currently and
absolutely.
it's not
Yeah,
done? It's not even
yeah,
close to being
yeah,
done. Like, that's the point. Like,
yeah.
what tools we have and what time we don't have to waste anymore is
Mhm.
going to be pretty phenomenal, to say the least. So, that being said, I mean, I commend anybody in the creative space just wanting to do their own thing. And I think marketing people serve a purpose, right? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with them or anything like that. It's just they're just a little bit, it's kind of like having the wrong person in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, in some cases, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not going to say all marketers are bad at what
No,
they
no,
do,
no,
but
no.
yeah,
But you don't take
but
the
yes,
person
yes,
that seats someone in a restaurant
right,
and put them in the kitchen and start giving orders
mhm,
to the chef, right? You know what I
right,
mean? Like, that's just
yeah.
not that's not
Let the
how
chef
that
cook.
works.
Yeah, let the chef
Get
work.
out of the
Yeah,
damn kitchen, man.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's kind of the way I look at it. But they do serve a
yeah.
purpose, right? And so I think knowing their place and not overstepping those boundaries, I think would be a really good place for marketing. So yeah, stay out of the creative space. Just figure out ways to make money that respects the customers, and that's really your job, right? Is how
Right.
to take this product that someone's producing and make it marketable to the mainstream. It's already on a crash course. It's already happening, right? So just it's one of my biggest pet peeves in the industry is the marketing groups, because they're just overstepping their boundaries way too much. So
Well, I mean, but and see, like you're more into it than I am, knowing more about the information. But I always blamed it on the publishers themselves by
who
allowing, I guess,
who who do you think at the publisher commissions the people to make those decisions,
right.
right?
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's no different. Like the people at the top are the ones that's trying to that hires, like you said, the people that makes that does these pitches. And while these developers are out here saying, "Look, man, I have a vision for something," and it may not sound really cool. Like, I mean, if somebody came to me and I was, a big investor into the game, or if I was a publisher and they said something about the gunk, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds like a Nintendo game. That does, you got to show me something, present
Well,
me
and
something,
and
and
that's
then I would have approved it because I was like, oh, okay, that's different. But I'm not, but a lot of these people aren't gamers
well, and I think
like we are.
developers need to
So,
get better too at not asking for the money so early. That's been my
mm,
approach,
mm,
right? Don't sell yourself short, right? Okay, you're doing a product that's a higher risk. So lower the risk for the person that's going to upfront the money. Put your own
no, that
cash
makes
up,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
Develop it a little further along and say, you know what, this is a good game. There's potential here. And it's a very low risk because now I don't have to spend as much money
You
to
know what?
bring it to market.
That's a
So
great point. Just to piggyback on what you were saying, that's a great point. That I think that would make a publisher feel more confident into whatever that you want to and want to want to make
yeah.
if you are willing to put your own money into
Well,
it yourself.
think if you're
That says a lot.
think
That
if your
seems that's a
negotiation
lot.
power with your overall audience. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
publisher, right? So if you're,
Mhm.
you know, your studio and say, yeah, we did 60% of the game. Sorry, we're renegotiating our contract. I mean, we're not doing
Mhm.
this split. We're doing this split. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
so you lower the risk for the publisher, the upfront money for the rest of your development and bankroll, like basically contract workers and things like that to get the product out to market. But you're also you're able to keep way more money too.
Yeah.
So and all that good stuff. So
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. That's a really great point. I see a lot of what a lot of people are doing now. They're doing another way of trying to solicit themselves. So they'll post what the game is while it's in production on social media, and then that way that you can kind of see how that generates hype or if it doesn't. For instance, I'm seeing a lot of different like indie fighters out there, and these guys are out here. They're showing this, and I'm like, oh my god, that looks amazing. And so I'll repost it, and then other people will repost it, things like that, to gain traction. I mean, that's another good
well,
way to do that as well.
I think that's great
You
for
know,
that
and I
category of
and I
game.
yeah,
If you think about
right,
fighters in general, like I know you have a deep
right,
love for fighters, but
right.
it's not as big as the first person shooter genre.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
like
no. But I'm just saying,
yeah. So
if more developers did and try to take that same route as what I've been seeing with these fighters, then I think that could
where was
show that hey,
also
there's
that
interest for
Chinese
this
game
game.
that's really good looking too.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
uh,
I don't want to
what's
butcher the name.
Shaolin versus Wu Tang.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, not a fighter. The one that you look like a monkey.
Oh, the Black Myth,
Black Myth.
the
Yeah,
Black Myth.
that's a
Yeah,
good
it's called
example.
Wu. Oh yeah, yeah.
That's a
That
good
looks right.
example of self promoting your
Mhm.
stuff, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
In regards to that, because who would have really pushed that over here? Because it's kind of an awkward thing, but it's a cool looking, beautiful game, right? In a very particular genre that
Amazing
certain
game.
gamers
Yeah.
like, and so there's definitely I wouldn't say a niche, but a a market for that, I should say. So
Yeah, no doubt. Like, and I mean, if and from there's so many anime fans in the world now. that that this character seems to be based off of the Monkey King. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, basically that already draws in interest and things like that. But what they do with that game by trying to push it out to like expand the myth of the Monkey King is just I've never seen it before in a game. Like
Yeah, I gotcha.
that is spectacular. But yeah, no,
Anyways,
that's a great point.
but
Great point.
just it's industry talk. The things that I
Right.
talk about amongst other developers and stuff like that, and I
Mhm.
feel very strongly about it. That's just when it really comes right down to it, it's not to come from like a bitter or upset situation. It just feel like I'm like I see so many games potentials ruined by that segment within gaming where a group is way overstepping in
Yeah.
regards to that. And so the way to control that is, well, upfront your own cash, right?
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is, and
No doubt.
you know what I'm doing. And like, I mean, I'm paying 100% of my own game right now, right? So it's one of those things when I go to bat and say, okay, all right, here's all the things I need to help, like with getting the game out the market, because it's not overall playable state for something you want to release. But at that point, they weren't going to have to front that much money. They're going to get a return on their investment. It's going to be a quick return on their investment too. That's the other thing too. People that dump money into things, they like a quick return on their investment. Does that make sense? I give you 10
Mhm.
bucks. Next week I'll give you, I'll give you back, I loan you 10 mega and you give me 20 back the following week. I like that deal. Does that make sense?
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
Where you go, well, I'll give you 40, but it's going to be a year from now. I don't like that deal. Right.
No, no,
so,
no, no, people don't
so
like that deal at all.
that's the other thing too. I think, you get a product.
Unless they get 400, and then all is forgiven. But still, people don't want to wait that long.
But no, and then it becomes a higher risk, right? Like that's the
Right.
thing. And so yeah, I can possibly get 400, but will I get my money back? It's one of
Hmm.
those things. So
Okay.
people have to kind of start thinking in those mindsets. I think developers need to start thinking of their mindset, and they have to start thinking long term of, you know, where they can operate correctly. So, but I think a lot of this talk will apply to some of the stuff we're going to be talking today. I think we're going to talk
Yeah, yeah,
about Bungie.
yeah. We were
Bungie's going
just
to be
talking
part of
about
it too today. So,
yeah. But before we get into the Bungie talk, I definitely want to talk about. Seems like marketing has overstepped their bounds, and let's talk about a game that's near and dear to me, and that is Battlefield. And
okay,
so
okay, yeah.
yeah, normally like I posted it earlier this week. I mean, I'm not into the movie. You know me. I'm more open about games, more open about a lot of other things. I'm not so just quick to say, "Oh, that game is awful," or this should be this way." Oh, I want a refund, or I feel this way
You
about it.
try not to be
I'm
quick
just
to
not.
judge, is what you're saying.
No,
Okay,
no.
gotcha.
I put myself in a position to try to understand how things work, or at least try to understand the history of things. What led to the situation being the way that it was. So I'm a little bit more forgiving in that aspect. But for Battlefield, for me getting it, I'm anticipating it. You know that for from day one when they showed it, and getting it at launch, it was broke because we got it beforehand because I bought the $110-$20 version.
Yeah,
And it was broken. It wasn't playing right. Still, I was like, the potential is there. I'm cool with it. It's all right. Then after the game launched, a couple of weeks later, after that, the game just kept getting better and better to play. Wasn't a bad game whatsoever. But then the last time that I played it, which was about a month and that, excuse me, about a month ago, um, I was getting kind of tired of just kind of seeing the same things, and I'm just wondering, like, why was it that there wasn't the revolution that I was expecting? I mean, for a game that you're taking away the single player, this is all multiplayer. You know, people are excited about Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Bad Company, all this destruction, all of these things that makes the franchise its own, like one of the best
beloved.
shooters out there. Yeah, beloved. And so therefore when you get that and you just see the same tornado over and over again, you get into some, like you see a sandstorm. The destruction is pretty good in some cases, and then other cases it just seems kind of bland. You get into that, and you're like, all right, well, I'll just wait until they get the season. We know that they're going to patch things up. They're going to get things together. That's fine. All these games are in this space are doing it this way. Even Halo was going through that, right? So, all right, I'm going to be patient. But then I seen that they came out with a statement, basically telling people, well, you know what? You paid this money for this game. I know that you guys were anticipating some changes and things like that, but you're going to have to wait until the summertime. Well, why did you even bring the game out in the first place? If you knew that this game wasn't going to be what they knew that. Like all these games, I mean, from the situation with Cyberpunk, the list goes on, right?
Well,
They know
at a
when this
certain
game,
point
yeah,
before it's launched, they know where they're
yeah,
at, right?
they
Like,
know where they're at.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is one of the things in the industry that bugs the hell out of me.
Mhm.
Right? Like, there's a lot of pressure of th- let's dispel all the myths that people like to say out there to try to sound cool, right? Like, there's no lazy developers. It doesn't. They don't exist. I mean, let's point that out. Like, you can say that till you're blue in the face, be that old man yelling at the cloud shit. But the reality is, to be in the industry, it is incredibly competitive to the point where we have a shortage of staff in the industry overall.
Mm.
So, in order to get to that upper echelon where you work at a studio at any level, even as a tester, working in house, you really have to bust it, right? You have to really, really put in that work, right? But the problem is you have these deadlines, right? And people always want to hit a certain time in the market for like when something comes out. If you get where I'm going with that, and next thing you know, can you do it? Can you do it? Everyone wants to be the yes man. Everyone wants to tell their boss yes. No one wants to tell their boss no, or where things are bad, right? And
Mhm.
then shit, left hand's not being completely honest with the right hand, and next thing you know, they push out a product and they're not ready for post launch, right? Because these are games as a
Right.
service games, right? So they have approaches like, well, we'll push it out and we'll polish it up later to some degree, and that's fine. But the question is, how long is that time frame? And you have to have a realistic time frame for retaining your audience. Does that make sense? Especially when
Right.
the games as a
Yeah.
service model expands. There's only going to be so many gamers that are going to be involved in game as a service. That's the harsh reality. So if you fail to launch your product in the ether correctly and you lose all that goodwill of, say, the fan base of a particular product.
The hardcore fan base,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones, the early
Yeah,
adopters.
and
Right.
you're seeing that with the Battlefield stuff. You're seeing that with Halo to some degree as well. You're seeing these people that really love the franchise, and because they're not managing the games as a service in a way that I think the gamers were sold on, then people are going to get upset. People are going to get frustrated with it. I mean, it's not a guarantee it's going to like the game's going to not die between now and then, right? It's the same thing with
Oh,
Halo.
it's a the
Halo
game
is
is in
not
such a bad
guaranteed.
state. Oh, the Halo is fine. I'm not going to agree with you on that one.
Well, no, you
But hold on,
can't.
let me finish. Let me get to my point. But what you call it is, but Battlefield is in trouble because EA wouldn't even allow themselves to show their numbers, and that is not like EA to just kind of hold their numbers within. They're always going to show their numbers. They didn't even publicize it this time,
Yeah.
which is showing me that the fan base. Look, you promised something. I get it. I get it that these games are going to go through changes and things like that, but if you can't sit there and you gave us a first deadline, then you got to meet it. You have to meet that first deadline. Is that and then which and now with the situation with Halo, if they go and they come out and they say, well, the co-op situation is we're gonna have to postpone that until the summer. That's gonna piss a lot of people off.
They're already
And
alluding to that, but they won't say it out loud.
well, if they do
They,
that,
they,
Halo will still be fine overall
I mean,
because
no,
they'll
no.
still be
Halo will still survive, but I'm saying
right,
the
right.
potential of the game.
Battlefield, though, I don't know.
Well, the potential of that games as a service dwindles, right? Because what
Right.
people have is their last experience, and their last experience was
Hmm.
like, I mean, like for example, we'll talk about desync with Halo, right? Like, and I'm not trying to make this a Halo thing. I just think these two games have some parallels in a lot of
Oh
ways
yeah,
because they're
no, they
games as a
do.
service,
They,
right?
they, they
But
do. They do. They do.
but I've been more involved with Halo and I haven't been involved with Battlefield. But like the desync
Right.
issues, like okay, someone logs into Halo and has desync every single time they play,
Hmm.
right? How many more chances are they going to even bother booting it up? Or are they just going to erase it? That
Well, no, some people will, some, but most people won't. This is the reason why I say this. It's because every other Halo is played fantastic. This Halo will get a pass because this is the first time that they're doing something completely different with the franchise. So that will give them a pass. Battlefield, on the other hand, they've already got their pass with Battlefield 4. They got a pass with Hardline, which I love Hardline. Hardline was great to me, but a lot of people was disappointed with Hardline. They gave up. They Battlefield 1 took it to the right direction. It was just the fact of the time frame of where the game was, but the game was fine. And then Battlefield 5, which upset a lot of people. For some reason, I think it's
so
crazy.
some are
But
justifiable, some are not,
right,
right?
right.
But that's what I was
But
saying.
here you go again, right? Like now you over here being an habitual line stepper. You
Who?
keep on trying,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, EA,
EA. Yeah.
and Dice. And so therefore, what you're doing is that you're telling people, well, okay, we know that they forgave us for this. Just forgive us one more time. We've given you so many other chances to be forgiven because of whatever. I don't care if the people at Dice left, the original people who worked on that, then you should have stated that beforehand. Because it's kind of like the Andromeda situation. People would have had a better understanding about Andromeda if they told people in advance, was like, look, it's a whole bunch of new developers on the game.
Yeah,
The game,
that will never happen. You know why?
I know that.
You know
I
why it
know
never
that.
happened? Because the marketing people want to do everything they can to push the game out, right?
Right, right. Now
Right.
I know that. I
Yeah,
know that.
and
I know
then
that. I know
when
that. I know that.
when
Right,
shit hits the fan, right? They're
right,
like, it was because of this, right?
right,
Right,
right, right.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
It's so it's one of those things. Like as I said,
yeah.
like certain games will all give a bit of goodwill, right? But when
Mhm.
you have games as a service and you don't deliver on a reasonable time frame and on your promises and on your roadmaps, you're
Yeah,
only going to be forgiven so much. And every
right.
game's going to be a little bit different. That's what I'm saying. So when I was using the Halo example,
Mhm,
is okay. Well, that person maybe didn't like 4, didn't like 5. Now the
mhm.
last 4 or 5 times they boot up Infinite, they may like the fundamentals of the gameplay, but shit, man, it doesn't play right, right? So like you get to a point where like, does that person come back, right? And you can only go to a restaurant so much,
Mhm.
and you get served or you get your order wrong, if you know what I mean. And
Right,
are you
right,
going to
right.
go back? Are you going to spend your money with them? Are you going to even spend your time? Are you going to go out of your way?
I have. I've done that. I think everybody's done it.
But
I've
everyone
gone to
does it
Apple.
to a certain
I
degree.
want to
But
give Apple. I'm gonna give Applebee's one more chance because they gave me a good experience. Then they gave me a horrible experience, and I'm like, okay, third time's the charm. So I think that's where Halo is at right there. With
well,
like
yeah,
how
as
I'm
I
talking
said,
about
everywhere,
Applebee's. Yeah,
every
yeah,
game's
yeah,
at a
yeah.
different spot. But when this space
Right,
gets more
right.
and more competitive, the question
But yeah,
is,
but you're right
where
though.
do you
Yeah.
spend your time, right? Like I can
Hmm.
go play
Hmm.
this game because it works.
Right.
This game is not broken. Oh, this game is giving me content on a regular day basis or rewarding my time with the game.
Hmm.
And so, you know, getting something out the product, that competition, and getting something on out on the ether, I think that's important. But you also, it's almost like the holidays are almost irrelevant in some ways anymore, right? Because I think both of these games that we're talking about, and then let's focus a little bit more on what we're seeing with EA. They release it before the holiday season. What happens?
Hmm.
A lot of their staff, they after a game comes out, a lot of the staff moves on. It's roughly about 15% of the industry moves on after that, and doesn't include contract employees. So it's even higher than that. So you're going to see a huge segment is just gone after something like that. So maybe if you're doing games as a service and you're losing 15% of your staff after product releases, maybe doing it during the holidays and then having the rest of your staff take vacations is probably not the best idea. Probably not the
No,
best idea at all.
no. no, no, and
So
that to me is where the problem is overall with me, and that's why I was like, "Look, man, I don't know if I can. I haven't tried yet, but I am considering asking for a refund." And I mean, it might be too late, but I'm gonna. I
I think
might.
that's reasonable.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm at that state. Like, look, man, I've given so many opportunities for Battlefield to be greater than what it should be. Battlefield 4, absolutely one of the best shooters I've ever played in my entire life. Um, but it was so broken that that a lot of people didn't experience it until years later. That game should have just pummeled Ghost, Call of Duty Ghost. That was at that time where Call of Duty was reeling
you talking about the
because they
one that
offered
was
promise.
like cops and robbers?
No, no. Battlefield 4 was the one where they really pushed out the evolution. They had the Levolution, where they
Oh,
had the
that was year
buildings fall
year two of last gen, right?
up. No, that was towards that game. Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 are kind of synonymous because they're kind of continuations.
Yeah.
But that was at the end of the generation, and then remember that they had the games to be they had like a next gen version
Hmm.
for both Ghost and for Battlefield, and Battlefield was like on a whole Battlefield 4 was on a whole nother scale. COD was not. People were anticipating to have more players on on these maps. And these maps were big. The story, I love the Ghost story, but the multiplayer just wasn't up to snuff compared to what Battlefield offered. And so,
Okay.
but again, like I said, they came in broken. I got my copy for $19 at GameStop.
Oof.
And I mean, we're talking about a month or two after the game launched on the Xbox One, and I'm sure that the price was probably the same, but there was a used copy. There was copies like all over the place at the GameStop that we went to, and I was like, "What?" And so I got nervous. And then what saved it is that when I played right off the bat, I played it and it was legit. I didn't have no problems with it. And I was like, "My God, this Battlefield 4 is like just incredible." And then it started messing up on me probably about maybe 7, 8 games afterward,
so
matches
so
afterwards, and then it was
so
just
let's say you give you a
then I just said,
refund on
"Why
this game.
trade it in?"
So
Mhm.
let's just say acknowledge, hey, you're able to ask for a
Yeah.
refund. You got your refund.
Yeah.
What is it going to take for you to give them a chance again?
Uh, I think because I'm a loyal person, right? So one of my things is I always will give benefits to the doubt. Um, but what will happen here going forward with Battlefield is that I'm not going to be I'm not going to be that first day adopter anymore. I'm not going to pay you that $110, hundred. You know what I'm saying? I'm not paying you the max
So you're
dollar
going to
anymore.
fill it out a bit.
Yeah,
You're just going to wait a little bit until they get
I'm going
everything
to
all
wait.
ironed out. And
Right.
and that's to be commended from a gamer's perspective. Like I get it.
Hmm.
And it's unpopular for developers like me to say stuff like this, but since I'm not beholden to a particular publisher right now, I can say whatever the hell I want. and
Of
uh,
course, right.
and I think the games are better
Used to
off.
not you used to not be that way. You used to be tight lipped, but that was a different circumstance back then.
Yeah, I was under a lot of contracts at the time.
Yeah, yeah, right,
um,
right, right.
but but you know, f- I think it's healthier for the game for gamers to take that approach. And
Mhm,
and it's not a popular thing, like that's not something you're supposed to say in the walls of an EA or Activision or Ubisoft. But I think it's healthier for your game because
yeah,
when you adopt the game is playing better, right? And so you don't have these lingering memories of everything being crap. Does that make sense? Game
yeah,
crashing or whatever the issues of what that particular title has. And so, we developers are making products to entertain people, right? And they want to
mhm,
have lasting experiences. So the last thing you want is your consumer to have a bad experience. So if your product's not ready for prime time, then I wouldn't want someone to have a shitty experience with my product, right? Like I have to earn that dollar, right? I have to
mhm,
earn that buck. And that maybe I screwed up and maybe I have to drop the price of my game and maybe I have to do a series of patches and patches and patches to get that shit right. But can't blame a gamer for that. That's on me,
right.
right? Like if
Yeah,
if, if I create a product like that. So taking ownership of things, I think is a step in the right direction. Gamers just kind of, doing what's right for their overall experience. I think that's super important. And I don't wish any studio on success. I do wish everyone success. But that being said, the end goal is to entertain gamers. And so
Right.
if you're not doing that correctly, you're not doing that correctly, and you just kind of have to, you know, got to own it when you screw up. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, no, and that's for me is like, I'm always trying, like I said, give the benefit of the doubt. I'm not one of these people to bash EA because of this. EA still brings out some quality content. I mean, one of the game that's from EA won game of the year. So it takes two. So they bring quality content,
Yeah,
but they also have a mismanagement problem. It's things that you've alluded to about things within the industry. So again, they have to clean that up and shore that up. But the whole Battlefield thing for me, it bothered me. It really did. Like, come on, man. I've given everything that I had for Anthem. Then you took that away from me. Now you go in and then you're doing this with Battlefield. I get that you want to go with a different direction. I wasn't tripping about the story. I would have loved to have a story with a campaign, but the vision of what you tried to give us was something that was spectacular, and I was all in for it, and
yeah.
and they still will probably get there. But now if I do get this refund, then what's going to happen is that I'll go ahead and I'll rebuy it again maybe next year, maybe 2 years down the line. If I don't get it, then I'm just going to have to eat that. But that's a lesson learned, and I will not ever do it again. I mean, it was the same thing about when I had the issue with a particular game with Xbox, and I was just like, okay, you know what? Because I was pre-ordering all the time. I said, nope, I'm not going to be doing any pre-orders like that early ever again. Because if this is what's going to happen, then I'm not. You're not going to get my money early like that. So,
And I've always said
um,
this: games as a service games are
yeah,
never going to be perfect when they launch,
right,
right? Because when you
right,
test internally and then you scale internally, you also find a bunch
mhm,
of other issues, right? And then when you scale it
mhm.
to the mass market, the real world, there's always problems. They're
Right, right, right.
you just there's no way you could have conceived it, right? So
Mhm.
the issue that you run into going forward on something like that is, you know, owning the problem, addressing the problem, and taking care of the problem in a reasonable time frame. Otherwise, you don't
Yeah.
have games as a service because you're not providing a service. If that makes
Right,
any sense,
right, right.
right?
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Imagine if your power went out that much, right? Like, or or if your internet goes
Oh,
out
well,
like
the
that.
internet, yeah, like, I'm like, "Man, look, you know how much we paying," what I'm saying, "we are paying for this internet?" Like, "No, no, 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 no." All these outages, what I'm saying, Cox Communications, we "Hey, bro, look, you know how much we paying for this, right? For this Giga Blast. We ain't playing no games here. You always ready to get your hand out for the money that we give you for this service. This service
Yeah,
is better be right."
yeah.
So, but it's working good now, as you can see. Like last night, I was pretty pissed off. I was mad. I was
Yeah,
bad about it, but
yeah, I
obviously
can tell.
weather.
But
Yeah,
when K Mega gets quiet, real quiet, and then when he starts going into stealth mode, you know there's a problem, right? So, uh, but yeah, I mean it's just one of those weird things. I mean it is what it is. There's nothing wrong with way people are gamers saying, you know what, enough is enough, and maybe that's the best way to go on about it. Maybe not like dogpiling and being like jerks about it. It's just like, hey man, I want to support you, but you're not doing it. You're not getting it done. And I think sometimes those small quiet voices that they're very direct to the point, I think those are very piercing than the people that are just kind of yelling at the internet. And I think that's how gamers honestly get ignored when they're just how depending on how they conduct themselves and stuff like that. So
yeah,
yeah, I get it. I get a gamer being upset. I get all that sort of stuff. But if you do games as a service, you have to be on call. That's what you're doing. You're providing a service. You have
yeah.
to keep it rolling. And if you don't keep it rolling, that's your livelihood. And so, I think, you can't have your foot halfway in, halfway out. You gotta commit. So
No. Gotta commit. Gotta
That's
commit. I totally
so.
agree. All right. So I mean, look, that could be spoken for a whole bunch of things. I mean, Dying Light 2. Um, some people out there, I've been looking at the ratings of it. People, it's got a lot of bugs in the game. That game had, got delayed, I believe, twice. And people are like, well, just wait for the patch. Listen, I'm actually really interested. I really want to play Dying Light 2. So,
Is it out?
um, yeah, it's out,
When did
and
that come out?
came out, I believe yesterday,
I
I
don't.
believe,
I haven't
or
heard.
today,
Okay, that makes
yesterday.
sense. Why I haven't seen anyone
Yeah,
talk about it. I didn't
yeah.
know that game
They
was
were
out.
talking. Yeah, no, it's been getting average ratings or whatever. But
Oof,
the one
that's
problem
rough.
of it is that yeah, the reason because of because of the bugs. They're having a lot of bug issues, a lot of frame rate issues. But like once the game is playing, once the game is playing well, they say it's fantastic. Of course, that there was some other caveats, things we have to do talking about within the game that they didn't like. But I listened to like about 7 different reviewers on it, and they were all kind of basically biggest problem with the whole situation with the gaming issues of playability, pretty much. So,
Yeah,
but that's unfortunate. But all right, so let's move on. Let's talk about this Sony Bungie situation, man.
yeah. This is an
I-
interesting one.
this is very interesting. Like,
Hmm.
I see it on both sides. It was funny though that there were people out here that was really thinking um, that Halo was included with the Bungie deal.
I have to.
It kind of
Let me remind you. There's a YouTube video I need to send you that they make fun of that whole aspect of it.
oh you got to send that. You
You,
got to send
you
that.
know those people I was telling you that they have these girls that represent like an
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Xbox
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
same
Yeah,
same people. They did one
uh-huh.
about the Bungie thing. It's
Oh,
so
man.
good,
I
so
would have to
good.
watch that one.
It's just
I would
jokes.
have to watch
Like
that
if
one.
you guys,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
if I, you know what, I'm going to provide you the link so you can share it with this podcast once it goes live on your YouTube channel.
All right.
So you
Okay.
can put the link down
Nice.
below so people can check it out. But
Okay.
credit
All
to
right.
those guys, man. They're on top of it and it's hilarious. So it's just jokes
Oh,
though.
I bet it is funny. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. No,
Yeah,
but
be lighthearted.
but it also, but see, that's the thing too, though, that bothers me, right? Is that you're a content creator, right? And there is you have to have some kind of responsibility if you want to get out here and talk about that. If you're just talking about primarily PlayStation, gotcha. But a lot of these PlayStation content creators talk more about Xbox than they do about PlayStation. And if you didn't know that Halo was with 343, but you would always like or post things about how bad 343 is and how Halo is bad this, but then you get the information about Bungie and think that Bungie has got Halo. There is something wrong with this picture. Like there's something wrong here. But that's for me to get messy on next podcast and GRG. I'll keep it light here. But I think to me
I mean,
this
the free market. I think. I mean, when you misstep like
yeah,
that, I think
yeah.
gamers are interesting. Like they're some of the most giving people I know, like in the world. Like they will, you know, they donate to your
Oh yeah,
YouTube
no
channel.
doubt.
They donate
Oh
to
yeah.
Twitch, or like
Yes.
when you're not
Yes.
expecting it. Like you've been on the receiving end of where people bought you games. Halo Infinite was bought for me, and it was part of Game Pass. Like
Right.
I get it.
Yeah,
Um,
somebody bought you Tekken so you can fight me, so
yeah,
you can
exactly.
come
So
beat up on me. Yeah, like that's
exactly,
crazy.
and probably doesn't even watch Fight Night. Like
No,
it's fine. Like gamers are some of the most giving people in the world, but
absolutely. Yeah.
when you play them as a fool, they'll hold a grudge, and rightfully so. In regards to, so when people like misstep like that and they want to be part of the conversation and they just don't understand, um, people start seeing you for what you are. Like no one
Mhm.
really has to call you out, because that's like the conversation I keep talking to you about. Like, they're saying all these things are wrong. Like you and I will have these conversations, and I'm like,
Mhm.
doesn't matter. People are eventually going to see them for what they are, right? And guess what? You be solid. You do what your stuff is. You're going to grow. Whatever
Right.
that potential is, you're going to grow. So, um, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, because there's things to talk about here, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like and then and it's hard to talk about them because people are going to want to say, hey, you want to just talk negatively about PlayStation or positively about PlayStation, whatever it may be, but it's just an interesting thing to watch,
Yes.
right? And
And it's a great move by Sony.
I
They
think it's a
need
net positive for so many
it is
ways.
for so many opportunities for Sony. Sony needed this in a big way because I you can talk about how great their studios are, and they are, but they're all primarily great at one particular thing. I understand that they have that Naughty Dog can make, has made a multiplayer. I know that the people who does I can't think of the name of the studio that makes the Horizon franchise now. They've made Killzone and others. But for some reason those IPs haven't sticked like the Halos or the Gears or what the competition
I
has
don't think
done.
they've ever
Yeah,
had the gameplay.
yeah.
Not
There's
all Sony
something
titles
there
to be
that just
clear,
doesn't resonate.
but the first person
Procom was
shooters,
one.
but the
Yeah.
first person shooters, and this is where I really want to
Mhm.
resonate from, regardless if you like Sony's first person shooters or not.
Right.
That gameplay hasn't resonated with their audience to stick with it. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like they made
No,
their
you're
series
right.
and they moved on to kind of the third person action adventure, which are great. Sony's top in their class in those categories,
Oh yeah.
but just because you're top in class in certain categories doesn't mean you ignore other categories altogether. You do have to improve in
Absolutely.
those areas. So just like how
Hmm.
Microsoft's got to improve in certain areas where they're falling short. I
Yeah.
mean,
With their single player. Yeah.
with that
Yeah.
single player campaign sort of game, like they have to get better at
Hmm.
that
Right.
in regards to that. So I mean, you just have to be genuine. And thing is, now that they have it, we can be genuine about it, right? Like we can have an open conversation, reach across that aisle and say, hey, this is something that Sony really needed in regards to that. But there's a couple of different things. Like I think they really are suffering. Sony's suffered from the first person shooter genre. Like they've tried, but they really kind of haven't caught that wave, if you know what I mean,
Oh yeah.
and be
Right.
part of it in the mainstream. They also games as a service. They're behind in as far as all that stuff goes. Like that is part of gaming. Love it or hate it, it's going to be a segment of gaming, and it's money on the table. And there's people that love that, and and I think what's great about it is now Sony can address that, but they don't necessarily have to apply it to all their games. And so there's people that are
Right.
not into that they fulfill that other niche out there where somebody just wants a good campaign and plays through a good game. So I think Sony has this is a good acquisition for them. What's interesting though, from a Bungie perspective though, is they're kind of a wild card of a company, right? Like they're weird, right? Because they say we want our independence, then they get bought out by Microsoft, and then they're like, well, we want to leave, we want our independence, and we don't want to do Halo anymore, right? And so what happens? Activision gets the publishing rights,
Right.
right? And then they're tied to Activision like at the hip, and they make a Halo-ish feeling type game, right? You can feel
Right.
those the
Right.
feel is that DNA is like, well,
Oh yeah. That
yeah,
DNA is
yeah,
so there.
so
Yeah.
part of it is like, yeah, you wanted to do something different, but not really. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, right? And so,
Hmm.
yeah, and doesn't mean they're any less accomplished. They're accomplished studio, um, but they kind of fall into that category. And which is interesting because Sony made a statement they're using it as more as a games as a service sort of helping them in that particular area, but Sony teamed up with Activision for that exact same reason back in the
Right.
day, right? And so it's not
Right.
like they're
Right.
experts in that field. You know what I mean? They had to go learn from Activision in order to how to figure out how to, really kind of structure that and build upon that. So, it's very, very interesting as a studio. And also they always scream independence, and now they're partnering up with Sony. So are they going to have their independence working with Sony? Or is it a good match?
Yeah.
Is it a good match for Bungie and Sony? I mean, can Bungie learn things from Sony and vice versa? I mean, there's some honest questions to ask there, and it's going to play out over time. But you know, I mean, it may be a very, very good thing, and I like the fact that it's mixing up the industry overall.
Right.
Anything, me and One Bad Mother were talking about like what I liked about the Activision deal and what I like about this deal, which is saying here,
Mhm.
tell my dog to stop barking from a remote. All right, he knows now. Uh,
Oh,
um, you know, basically, is this going to be a good partnership? And I think it is. I always want to think on the level of positivity, but
mhm.
you know, you know, Bungie's a wild card, right? It's less of Sony. It's more Bungie's the wild card in regards to that. So we'll see. We'll see how it all
Yeah.
goes.
Now, okay, so this is the thing that makes this really weird because a lot of people, and I've heard we've had this conversation too,
Hmm.
at the price point of that Sony overpaid. Well, now that information's got posted. I believe it was last night, like early morning today or last night. That the reason why they paid the amount that they did is because they were guaranteeing that the Bungie employees would stay and not leave. So that extra money was was the guarantee, that they would stay with Bungie during this acquisition. So therefore,
That's a weird contract. So
um,
they're getting
that is
dividends.
a
They're getting dividends from the buyouts. What you're saying.
right, and also that Bungie is still independent. So to me, this is kind of like
So Sony
this
just
is
owns publishing rights. Is that what's going on?
right, right. So
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't catch that until now. So
yeah,
Sony is still I mean, sorry, Bungie's still independent.
right. They can
S-
still put that they wanted the part of the deal had to be that they had to be multi. They still wanted to be multi-plat.
Well,
Now,
and
but they
I'm not really sold on that. I'll tell you why. Oh,
okay. Go
well,
ahead.
I think they have to. Well, who knows how this contract's going to pan out? That's
Right,
number one,
right.
right?
Mhm, mhm,
Because there's no precedent with Sony on acquisition like this, right?
mhm,
It doesn't exist out there.
right.
Um, where Microsoft there was precedent of what they've done with Minecraft, what they've done with games as a service that were already on other platforms, they never pulled them off. But they take new stuff and then make it on their own platform. And I kind of lean that way. That's how Sony is going to do it. I don't think Destiny 2 has much more legs to it. I always look at, not when they just release new DLC, because you're always going to get a vitamin B shot in the ass after after you do that, right? Your player base is going to
Right.
go shooting up, but it drops off like within 3 weeks, right? Pretty dramatically. So my thing is, I just don't really know. I just don't really know if I have a feeling a lot of this buyout had to do with what Bungie's got on the in the pipeline,
Right,
more
right,
about what they currently have right now.
right. Well, see, and that's the thing. Like Destiny 2 still remains multi-plat, and then this other game that's supposed to be coming out is supposed to be multi-plat as well. Now, one thing that I don't know if you remember when we was having our discussion talking about is that you were saying, well, look, they'll if they do Destiny 3, then that's where the game is changed.
Yeah,
Uh,
all the rules are
eh,
out the door, right?
right,
Because they
right.
never
All the rules is out the
released
door at that point.
because they never
Right.
released
Yes.
it on other platforms, right? And so
Right. Right.
you're not pulling service, you're not screwing over that particular customer base. Or like I think you can still play
Mm.
Destiny 1 if you wanted to, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
not that anyone populates that world all that much now, but you kind of get an idea. So, and I have a feeling that Destiny 3 has been in post production for quite a while. I've heard
Mm.
rumors about that for years now, about 3 years. There
Mhm.
and if you look at their user base, what I was saying is every time they release content, they get a vitamin B boost, but directly after 3 weeks to like a month, almost like clockwork, their average user base dies even more, right? So it's the projection of the user base is going down, not going up. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Overall. So what really helped Destiny or Bungie in the past when they did Destiny, they were having the same issue with Destiny 1 when they were releasing DLCs, right? And then when they decided to do Destiny 2, they started having an upward trend for a while. Does that make sense? And then
Mhm.
eventually it started leveling off and then start dropping off per DLC. So the trend is going down. So the question is, how do you get that trend to continuously go up for a bit? You release Destiny 3. You make Destiny 3 or whatever it is, right? And you get that to market. So, I think that's going to be their next big play.
Well, they have another game that's available. I mean, well, not available, but
I
that
I,
they're working on.
I
That's not
heard
that Sony,
I heard it doesn't
but who
it
knows?
doesn't have much money or much of their staff behind it, so it's a much
Mm.
smaller title in regards to that. Maybe small and original concept, then maybe they're going to grow it into something else later. I don't know, but
Yeah,
so but it doesn't seem like it's their main bread and butter where they're going to be going forward. From everything we can see from the outside in, so
yeah. Okay, so to this whole situation though with this contract, what I found so puzzling is that it's like what you were saying that Bungie is kind of weird because they'll say one thing and then they do another,
yeah.
and then like they're just they kind of buck the trend. What it reminds me of is like uh, a a 19 a college student, like let's say somebody 18 to 20 24, right?
Okay,
Like they'll
they're
have
getting their
all these
general
priorities.
education.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like they got all these they got all these expectations, and they want to stand up and do these things, but then they realize, oh well, damn, yeah, I need money for that. You know what I'm saying? So I need to do
Or becoming a
this, I need to
doctor is
do that.
really, really hard. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I'll
So
do this
maybe
other thing.
right, yeah, and
Maybe
so
I'll be a
that
guidance
yeah.
counselor instead of a doctor,
Oh,
right?
right, right,
So-
yeah, so that's how I look at Bungie, right? Like it's just a crazy, like just almost almost full adult, but still like okay, all right, but and there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing of it is that Sony, in order for Sony to sweeten the deal by making well not making, but to asking for these employees to stay, doesn't that kind of come off as saying like, look, there was these employees was like, look, man, I'm out. I'm gonna go somewhere else, or I might go, bounce get with the 343
well,
or
that's always
what?
well, we talk,
Yeah,
when
like
people have that organic conversation and totally take it out of context, right? Like,
oh, that's such a
but
stupid topic. Organic. Oh my god.
but there is a point, right, where you have to have good relationship with these studios, right?
Hmm,
So
hmm.
some people may not mind with the buyout. They're like, oh, I already like working with them. If you get where I'm
Right.
going with that, and then other people are,
Yeah.
oh, hell no, I didn't sign up for this when I signed my contract a year ago,
Hmm.
right? So and that's always kind of the trick. I mean, that's something Microsoft had to learn the hard way with Rare, right? They lost almost all their staff, like 50% of their staff, like in a short period of time. Like it was really,
Mm.
really pretty dramatic. And that's why Rare had such a steep drop off after Microsoft bought them. So there was things that they learned through that experience and through that process. And if you talk about the companies that basically Sony has purchased over the years, they've had a long-standing relationship. So when they bought them,
Mhm.
they probably the fallout of all that stuff didn't even move the needle, right? Just normal business as usual type stuff, right? Maybe you get a 1 or 2% more spike in turnover, but nothing crazy. I mean, that's to be expected with any buyout with any company. So yeah, it's one of those weird things. But I don't think that. I mean, there's probably some truth to that rumor, and I do think they overpaid, but it's kind of like overpaying for a house if you think about it, right? Like the
Right.
house market's hot right now still, right?
Mhm.
And so you have to outbid other people that are going to possibly try to purchase that home if you really, really want that home. And so you have to sweeten that deal in some sort of form or fashion. And I think Sony wasn't the only one shopping. We all know Microsoft has their checkbook open.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah,
all
no
we
doubt.
all know Bungie's still located at neighbors to Microsoft. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't move too far away when they went independent. So the potential of Microsoft picking it up was a possibility. So I think Sony had to offer that fat check, offered in a way that enticed everyone there at the company to work with them. If that makes any
Mhm.
sense, and
Right,
and
yeah,
that's
that's what I'm saying,
yeah. So there's
for the pe
competition. There was competition for them. I think it's over. I don't think the company's
it
worth that money,
yeah,
but
but
there
it
is
doesn't
competition.
yeah,
So
that's the thing that just throws me because it doesn't come off as being, "We're Sony, here, we want you," and then like it that contract doesn't seem nothing like that. Like it seems like, what you got? What's in it for us?
Yeah.
And now Sony is like, yeah, and that just seems odd to me because you know,
Well, I mean,
like Sony or not, I
I think
mean,
any studio would do that. I mean, I would do that. Like, say if
yeah,
Uncle Phil shows up to and he has the money bag, right?
mhm.
Right. I'm going to negotiate what's best for my employees. That
Well,
simple as that.
I
Yeah,
get
so
that, but I'm
you
saying,
are gonna do that, and as a company owner, you're gonna do what you can
right.
to, you know, so you can regularly sip mai tais on a beach, right? I mean, you're gonna do
Well,
what you can. So it's just,
I get that. Yeah, but no, what my point is this is that like I get the whole negotiation thing. It's
yeah,
just for me, it's just that it just doesn't. It's like giving a lot of leverage, giving a lot of leverage to the to the to the studio when you are really, I mean, in this sense, especially with the employees at situation, where I know why they want to keep them,
yeah,
but to me, it doesn't seem like it's a power move. It is great for them. I'm not trying to diminish that at all, but
of
I'm just
course.
saying by the situation, by way it looks, way it's structured, it's like, well, what did Sony benefit? Now,
When
one thing I do know that what they benefited on is that Sony, regardless of what people think about Sony pictures, right?
mhm.
About their movies. Okay. They and everybody says this, like the movie industry is kind of like in this stalemate. Like, either it's a superhero movie that's going to generate tons and tons of money, or it's going to be these other movies out here that just isn't moving the needle to the fan anymore. So
Yeah,
the
there's a
one
little bit
positive,
of, I wouldn't say restructuring, but a little bit of I don't know. The approach is different in the movie
yeah,
world
the approach is different.
than it has
Right.
been. So
And so it's already been said. Sony already released that information yesterday that they were like, look, we're already looking to want to do a Destiny movie and all of that. So they're trying to bring, I guess, a different
I would be
element
down for
to.
that though. Like
Oh yeah, no, that would be great.
I would say
Yeah,
Destiny is a well, this is just how
I could
Bungie makes games. Like
I can
their shit
understand the damn story at least. I know.
their stories all over the place, right? Like
Right,
they did it
right.
with Halo, and they did it with Destiny. And so a movie form factor would be really good for that franchise.
Yeah,
And with
be really
somebody
good.
with experience like Sony, I think that would be a really good thing. I would be totally down for that. Like
Yeah,
I'm totally positive on this deal. Like, to be honest with you, I have
me too.
questions,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But overall, just like I was about the Activision deal and this deal, like I'm okay with that, because if I want that product, or they make a product that I really want, I'll just go buy that device, right? If I have to, right?
Right.
Like, it's not a big deal
No.
for me. So I think it's a net positive for them to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with their approach. So
And Sony had to do it.
yeah,
Sony had to make a move. They had no after that Activision that was an earth shattering or earth shaking move to not only just to Sony but to the whole industry. Like, damn, like that's crazy. So Sony themselves had to do something because they're really lacking in that department, the multiplayers. So it was a really good grab for them,
I really have a
and so
feeling
they had to pay
this.
extra. They had to pay extra.
Well, I think the deal was already in the works, right? But I
You
think
think so? Yeah.
after that, they loosened up the purse strings. They're like, okay, if we want to play ball in this space, we're gonna have to pay
We're gonna have to
fat.
pay, pay to play.
What is it gonna
Right.
take? Well, like, what is it gonna take to keep everyone there? And
And and
just
that's why I'm saying,
they name a
yeah, the
price. They just
leverage, yeah, the leverage
they,
went back to Bungie at that point. Right.
like when someone writes something on a napkin, and they slide it to you, and then
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
then
yeah.
they take the pen from you and cross it out and write another number and slide it back. It was one of those deals, you know.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
So I mean, yeah, I'm happy for the Bungie guys. I really am, and I'm happy for
Mhm.
Sony. I hope it's a good marriage, and I hope that
Yeah, overwatch that.
there's a lot of crossover. What's going to help? So I'm just still confused. So it's just a publishing right thing that they've purchased.
Okay, yeah, it's a public. Okay, so they still stay independent. So I guess what Bungie will do is kind of pick and choose what will be what can be exclusive and what's not, because it's pretty much in their wheelhouse right now of where since they got that type of power. But I think where
Weird.
it benefits, yeah, it's very weird. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't seem like for the market
Because they
leader to
said
have
they
that
said they
to give
have
them that much
purchasing
leverage
power,
to,
so it's
yeah,
just how they do
yeah,
reporting. I don't understand how
that
this is
part.
structured.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
this
look,
is strange to me. So
yeah, it's very strange, and I'm pretty sure Bot's going to get into more detail about it
I'm sure
tonight.
he's been following it. It affects him more than it does
Yeah,
us because we don't play.
right, right, yeah, because we don't play Destiny like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I know he's going to be definitely all tuned in. So it's great for the people out there that Bungie are thinking about, and it also proves a point that look, the industry themselves enjoy the multi-plat thing. You know what I'm saying? Exclusivity is important, but it's only important for a certain for a certain uh aspect of gaming. Like gaming is getting broader and broader. But this even expands even more because EA,
Hmm.
Sega, and um and there's another company well, oh yeah, Sony and of course Microsoft, they're all in now. The acquisition wars has begun. So basically,
So how many more
uh
publishers do you think are going to be bought? You think we're going to have Ubisoft and both EA walled off in one camp or
Well,
the other?
EA said they were now looking for acquisitions themselves. So the ones that comes to mind that probably are available, because I think the Sega thing is now out of there. Because now Sega saying themselves that look,
Sega's complicated.
yeah, very complicated. Now they did
It's
they
because you're
sold
dealing with
all the
Japan, you're
arcades.
dealing with North America, you're dealing with there's just a harder acquisition. Anytime you have Japan in the mix, it's a challenge.
Well, I
How
think
you purchase
Microsoft
them.
is going to work with PlayStation about COD in the future to where it's going to benefit Microsoft in the later with some of those Sega properties that they've been hold off. Now, Square Enix is up and Square Enix
Yeah,
is definitely going to be a player.
there's no doubt they're going to be purchased.
Uh,
I would be
hey,
surprised if Square Enix got bought up by Microsoft. I think they'll get bought up by Sony before Microsoft picks them up.
well, no. I'm just talking about the studio, the publishers that's out that I think that's up for the
Oh,
get,
up for
right? Like,
grabs. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, and whoever wants to get
Well,
them
let's do over
will get.
under on each one of them. So
Okay, all right, let's go.
Sega, I see Sony being able to pick them up before Microsoft.
Sega? No, no,
Yeah,
no,
because of the
no,
complication of Japan.
no,
Yes,
no, no, no. Sega has not forgotten about what Sony did to them. No way, no way.
yeah, but those
There
people
might be
don't work
studio.
there no more. So
Those studios that Sony has relationships with would probably maybe they could be picked off like Atlas or something like that. But Sega, I don't see it. That's an under for me.
From the complications of how it is to purchase somebody from Japan, uh, Sony's in a better position.
Okay,
They just,
but
and
I'm
that's
way under on that. I'm
yeah.
10%.
So, and I'm the same way when it comes to SquareSoft, right? Same reasons, right?
Square Enix. You
So
said
yes,
SquareSoft.
SquareSoft. You get what I'm saying. Square Enix.
Yeah,
Like I'm in the same
yeah.
boat because it's just
Oh yeah.
it's less complicated for them to do that. And also, if you ask
Mhm.
me if they have a better relationship with Square Enix over Sega, yeah, I think they have a better relationship with
Oh yeah.
Square Enix
Much better.
than they do that. But just from the nuts and bolts perspective, I think that those are Sony's best bets. But the big
I'd
ones,
say I'll give that one 80%. That's the
but
top. eighty
but the
percent
big
chance. Yeah.
ones, I think Microsoft can take the bag, right? I think they can take EA. I think they can take Ubisoft.
I don't think EA is in contention to want to get bought out. I think EA is ready to play now. I think EA now is in a place where they know that they have had so many bad situations happen to them that they have to change the whole structure.
I understand.
That's why they yeah. And so for me,
That's
I
how
don't I mean,
but that's what happened to Activision right before they got bought out.
well, yeah, you are true.
Yeah,
You're
so that's why
absolutely right.
That's why I'm saying. I think
Yeah, that's
things are
right.
we talked about this. Conversations are always happening, right? The
Right.
conversations are
Oh yeah.
happening.
Oh,
Doesn't mean they'll go through. Doesn't maybe some pie in the sky type stuff.
yeah. Okay.
But if you talk about the as you say, these are the main acquisition wars of the publishers now. It's not just about these little studios. Sometimes I mean, in
Mm.
regards to that. So I think EA is on the table, and I think Ubisoft's on the table. I think Ubisoft's going to be the harder one to get, just because they're working a little bit more on all cylinders, even though they have some missteps recently
Uh-huh.
with the customer base. But I think EA is a potential. There's a potential acquisition there. I would say.
Okay, so EA, I would go under. I would say about 30-40% chance that they would get acquired by somebody. Um, Ubisoft, I would go 60.
Well, let
Um,
me ask you this question:
yeah.
what was your thoughts on all these over and unders before
Mhm.
Activision was purchased?
Listen, my thought would have been like 5%.
So that's
5%.
but that's the
Right.
point, right? Like that's the
5%.
reason why these
Yeah.
conversations are happening. And
Yeah.
who knows how
Uh,
much more Microsoft will invest or how much more Sony will invest, but
right.
um there's a different conversation happening behind the scenes than there is in the ether amongst gamers. And
Mhm.
and so some are going big, or and not going home. And
Oh, yeah.
maybe Microsoft doesn't make big moves like this because they want that Activision deal to go through. They don't want any, what I mean, they want the heat to kind of
Well,
die down a little bit.
that's my thing. Like,
Yes.
I think they might wait
Yeah,
until after
and
the ink is dry.
maybe even the little shit, they won't even announce that until till later, if there's little studios that are picking up here and there. I mean, I wouldn't be
Mhm.
surprised if certain Infinity gets picked up by Microsoft.
That would be a good look. That
Yeah,
would be
I
a good
mean,
look,
because
especially for
they
them.
basically are constantly working for 343 anyways. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they get picked up.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'd be a major announcement. It'd just be kind of like Phil tweeting on a Friday,
All right.
but I
Okay.
can see it
So,
happening.
CD Project Red.
Whew. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because they're more or less a self publisher for the most part, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and they make their own stuff, but they love anyway. They're like what Bungie wants to be, but not. If you know what I mean,
I
where
I got you. Yeah.
they're more independent. They do their thing, and they I don't know. I don't know. I think releasing on console with PC hurt them really bad. And I think Cyberpunk hurt their reputation, but
Oh yeah. Cyberpunk definitely hurt their reputation.
yeah, but I don't think they're not in a place where they can't come back from that.
Oh no, no, no.
You
They
so
drop another Witcher. They'll be
yeah.
back
My
on
question
top.
is, guys, just how much is
Yeah.
Cyberpunk going to carry them to their next product? I guess is the real question. And so if Cyberpunk didn't make enough for their development cycles, which are quite long, or almost a whole entire generation, right?
Mhm.
Then, um, yeah, then I can see them being purchased out. But I think it'd be a little too early for them. I'd be shocked. I would say maybe a year or two from now, you would maybe hear those conversations start coming up again. So,
Okay. All right. Capcom.
a Sony purchase.
Yeah. No, I could. Yeah, I
Uh,
could definitely see. Yeah.
but it's not coming from like, hey, that's where I want them to go, or anything like that. I just looking at the nuts and bolts and where they're located.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in that that promotes stronger relationships with that platform provider, and also it's just easier to close those deals.
Okay.
In regards to just less complicated, because if the companies are located in like North America and say Central Europe, no big deal, right? But the company's located in Japan,
Yeah.
China, ooh, it's a totally different conversation. They don't play by the same rules. So
Mhm. Okay. I got one, but I'm gonna hold on to that one until probably next to last. But let's go about Take Two.
Microsoft.
Microsoft. Okay, so and I would say Take Two is probably around 50% opportunity. I mean, chance for being to want to be acquired or getting acquired.
So, I mean, I'm
Um,
sure it's a conversation. I'm sure it's
yeah.
it's
Oh well.
it,
Yeah,
it's steak dinners for lunch, right? When
yeah,
Phil goes visit, right? I mean, that's the type of thing that I joke around about, but that's what's going on.
yeah.
Good relationships and just keeping it moving. So
Okay, all right. Okay, so well, I got three more in my head, but let me just go ahead and say. Koei Tecmo.
Mm. I don't see them being bought by a platform provider. I see them being bought out by like a bigger publisher in Japan.
Well, they're what bigger oh, like a Sega or something
It's
like
like a
that?
Sega or a Capcom
Or
or something like that. I don't know who's bigger and who right
well,
now,
what
but
Koei Tecmo is bigger than Capcom.
okay, well,
Yeah.
let's say
Oh,
it happens in the reverse, right? But I just
okay.
it seems like they're strong. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And they don't need they are almost stronger than a lot of these other bigger publishers, and as far as
they
like their
are.
position.
They're really strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people don't talk about it in the industry, but they're it's not a common conversation, I should say, but they're in a very very strong position that I don't think they have to worry about that stuff. So
Okay. All right. Me, I'll say 30%. Oh, well, 20% chance that they could get bought out. I agree. But I would love for Microsoft to get them because of Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive.
yeah,
Um,
that would be a good look for them for sure.
that would be an excellent look. Konami.
Mm, I would have to say like a 40-60 split, right? I think, you know, there's been a lot of rumors about that sort of stuff. I keep hearing it, but from
Mhm,
different sources than you are. This is when I start taking stuff seriously, like because I know where you get your information from, and I get my
mhm,
information from a different source, and this stuff keeps constantly coming back.
mhm,
Along those lines, it adds some legitimacy to it. So I would say 40-60. I would say 40% in Microsoft's camp and then 60% in Sony's camp. Just because of
mm.
the complication of Japan, right? That's always a complication. You
Man.
always have to factor that in. You can't
Oh,
ignore it,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
right.
always have to kind of like put the finger on the scale on that side with Sony a little bit when you're dealing with a Japanese company. But um I'm sure Microsoft is taking them very seriously in regards to that. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go 70% chance that Konami will get bought out by somebody. You know what? I'm on a fanboy on it. I want Xbox to get them. I want Xbox to get them. Castlevania, Bloody Roar, you know, Metal Gear Solid. Just yeah, no, I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
don't.
so yeah, it'd
And
be
if you
great.
go the route who I want, I don't want Microsoft to get
Oh, you don't? Why not?
them. It's about talent, so it's not just about IP. It's about talent as well, right? So,
Hmm. Hmm.
Konami is a mere shell of what they once were. Does that
Oh
make
yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
So they
Right,
don't
right, right, right,
offer
right, right.
what they bring. Biggest thing they bring to the table is IP. For
Right.
something like Microsoft, and that's all they bring. So, you know, that's why I say like you spend a lot of money on an IP, and now you have to build a bunch of studios to build their products, and that's
Well, no,
and
as many people
and
that
you're
you got
building.
staff now, as many
Well,
people that they
they
got staff now,
trust me, they're busy.
they could
They're busy.
oh, oh, okay, okay, okay,
They're
okay.
working a lot of stuff over there. So,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, yeah, no
yeah. So
doubt.
there's no doubt about that.
Mhm.
So I think that's just that's the only reason why. Like it's not like I don't like those franchises. And that doesn't mean I don't want those franchises to come back, but I just I don't have much hope for it, if that makes any sense. So because
I think that it's
Konami just has
go
different.
ahead.
Well, I was gonna say Konami has different priorities, right? They make a lot of money on
Right,
gambling
yeah.
and stuff like that, which
Mhm.
is a totally different set of priorities than console gaming, right? Like that's pretty much or PC gaming, like pretty much you and I who we associate with the most.
R yeah.
So you know their priorities are different. So what you're doing is you're buying a bunch of gambling machines. I mean, sure, it generates revenue and income, but
Right, I don't think
it's
yeah, well, see, yeah, that would be the caveat to it. So that's why I would think to me, Sega would be a big player if they were trying to do that. See, there's 2 different scenarios that I
was
see with the Konami
well,
thing.
Sega has more
Like,
value
yeah,
because they have talent in IP, right?
they got talent and they could work on those IPs. So
Yeah.
and say if Sega is saying that they're into want to get acquisitions, uh then then Konami would be there for be right there for the picking. But also, I'm gonna go back to those old rumors that was stated about like, hey, you know, Konami is down for, if not selling or at least leasing their IPs. So that's why I would say, like with Microsoft, man, if they could get a hold of those IP, you know, what I'm saying at least two of the IPs, go
I
ahead
don't think they're
and make that
interested in
happen.
leasing IPs. I think that's why the Warner Brothers deal wasn't a very good deal for them either, right? Because that's basically what
Right,
they're doing
right.
is they're leasing those franchises and they don't make any money off anything else, right? Like
Hmm.
if you think about like the Microsoft with took them forever to do it, right? But you know, we have different opinions about the Chevy Tahoe and and
Oh my God. Yeah,
and what we
yeah.
have in far as you know, Halo goes. But
Yeah.
you know, guess who makes all the money off of that? Well, Paramount and Microsoft, right? Because they
Right,
want to
right,
own that.
right.
Every time there is a Minecraft toy, guess what? They make money off that, right? Like they want to own everything about the IP, and so I think leasing IPs is just a um, short-term gain. It's not really the game they're looking to do overall. So
Okay. All right, all right. So, um, you already named it, WB. Um, what do you think? And who do you think
I
you're
don't think
getting?
anyone buys WWE.
Okay, all right.
I think WB starts dissolving their studios, and their studios end up getting bought out one by one.
Okay, so
I
you
think
think that they're gonna do the rumored Konami thing. Okay.
oh no, I think eventually when whatever games they're working on, right,
Mm.
in the DC universe, once those hit the market, they're going to say, hey, um, that product's on the market now. Let's get rid of them. You know,
Mm.
let's put them up for
Okay.
sale. You know, that sort of thing. That's what I see happening
Well, no, no, okay, well, let me ask you about this because there's people that
because they have
that
talent.
make that. Well, no, 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 no,
Talent's not
no,
the
no.
problem
It's about
with them. So
right. No, 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 no. They got talent. No, the thing that people will push back on and say, well, Discovery owns them, so Discovery wants to use them. I still listen. Discovery. I I don't see Discovery trying to get into the video game space. I just don't. Like, I mean, they could. They have the IPs to do it, but
I'm in silent
like,
partner sort of perspective, like, hey, we float you the money,
yeah,
you
I
give us
just
the
don't
money
see
back,
it.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I can see that from that perspective, but that's not the
Right.
same sort of investment as like Sony or Microsoft as a platform
Hmm.
buying them because
Hmm.
they're invested in gaming. They're just they're different, right? Like they're more hands on to some degree. Uh, and so, yeah, I think those acquisitions make more sense from that perspective, or
Me too.
your streaming platforms like Stadia. I keep forgetting it exists, but it's out there. And then you have yeah,
Disrespectful.
then you have whatever the service Amazon has. I forgot what that one's called, but um, I mean
Oh, Luna.
yeah,
Luna.
those are players people just just don't think about them, right? But they're
Right.
players in the market, and it's something you have to not not forget about. They are a
Right. Oh, you
huge
can't forget
segment.
about Embers Group. You can't forget about Tencent, especially Tencent. So,
They're not
and
something in the average gamer. It's in their vocabulary, but they are players for sure. So
okay, all right. Epic. Do you think Epic is up there? I say,
Epic, I think, is one of the biggest gets you can get. Period.
man, I don't see it, man. I think Epic is just too big, too powerful. I say for me,
Oh, so you're saying
I say
they're not up for
20%.
sale? No, I don't think they're up for sale.
Nah. Yeah.
But I say if you ask me what's the biggest get you can get out there, it's Epic.
Oh yeah, it's Epic. No doubt. No doubt.
People
Yeah.
don't realize it. Like the licensing from that engine and what they're building over there with Quixel and stuff like that, which is was purchased by them, and the library that they have, like the best games of this generation are all going to be done on that engine. Period.
Mm.
Doesn't matter if it's an in-house engine from Microsoft or an in-house engine from Sony. The best games are going to come out on that engine, without a doubt. Matter of fact, some of the best looking games that we've seen on these consoles already are not going to hold up to the test of time of what Epic's doing.
Mm.
That's just
That's
reality.
nuts.
That just
That's nuts.
it's a good reality. But
Yeah.
it's the harsh reality. That one's I think honestly would be harder one to purchase too. like let's say Sony made an offer or Microsoft, either one of them, right? Like, hey, we're gonna own the company, not just like some shares or something along those lines. Um, because then you run into monopoly situations. I think with the engine, is a big issue,
Right, right,
in
right,
regards to
right,
that.
right.
So, as I said, like it would be the biggest get to get. I mean, I would say it's bigger than buying Activision, to be honest with you.
Well, the
But
potential of it, absolutely, yeah,
yeah,
with
the
that
overall
engine
potential
alone.
and how you
Yeah,
can,
and Fortnite, yeah.
yeah. Well, Fortnite makes money, but they don't make as much money as that engine. That's the harsh
Well, no, I
reality.
do, but I
It's
mean, but that's what I'm saying.
people look at
But
Fortnite
that's why I
money and
said
think
so
that's the future,
big,
but
yeah.
it's
But
kind of, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
So it's just the more fancy thing that most people notice. So yeah, I mean that would be a big one, but I think Epic's in a position where they don't have to be bought out. In any sort of way, like they're kind of like they have what they call FU money. Like they just kind
right,
of they're
right.
kind of like they just do whatever they want in regards to that. So they're in a good position. And to be honest with you, out of all these companies, I would be totally open for everyone to be bought out. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't want Epic to be bought out. I want Epic to operate independently, um, just because that's kind of the balancing factor, right? So you have, let's say, Sony bought Ubisoft, and let's say Microsoft bought EA, and then Sony buys, say, Sega, and then Microsoft buys Capcom. Hypothetically, this all happens, right? And then everything's kind of walled off. The only thing that kind of keeps that middle ground, everything being released on everything, is the independent developers. And so it's important for that engine to be available for all independent developers, so the products can be released on multiple things as much as possible, and also keeps these big companies in check, right? When a little guy
Right.
when a little guy's kicking, I call it little Mac, right? It's
Little Mac.
little Mac, is hitting, throwing punches at Tyson, right? And he's landing them, and the odds are against him, but he's winning the fight. You start taking notice, right? And that's what makes these
Yeah,
big companies like take notice. So I think Epic has got this role in the industry that not necessarily asked for, but just kind of how it panned out for them, that they do really need to take care of those little guys to the big guys, and I think they're the equalizer in the industry. So um
and and
yeah,
this is
so
another point too. Yeah, no, and this is my last point on this is that it won't I look at it as a positive for anybody who acquires these companies, because you know who will benefit in the long run? These smaller developers, these indie developers, because they could have the next big game that could be the multiplat that could turn them into, a Take Two or to something like
well,
that.
yeah,
Like
like
it
Take
could be a
Two,
whole nother generation. Yeah, it could be a whole nother
Capcom,
generation.
Take Two. I mean, those were all small groups at one point,
Right,
right?
right, right, right,
So
right,
and they
right,
grew into what they grew into. And then they got
right.
bought out by other companies and vice versa, and like became these huge things. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't see it as a problem without, because
If you if you
listening and
if you
people
remove
saying
the
that it's
small independent
problematic.
developers, then it's problematic, right? That's where it
Right,
becomes an issue, where like you
right.
become a gatekeeper, that those people cannot be on your platform or can't produce products. um, then then you're kind of an asshole. Let's just
Hmm.
call a spade a spade. If you're preventing that from
Right,
happening on your platform, you're kind of being a jerk, in regards to that, and you are a problem. But as long as that exists, all these concerns about acquisitions of these bigger companies are going to do what bigger companies do, and smaller people are going to do might be more your speed, and that's nothing wrong
right.
with that. So
Right. Yeah. So no, some of them some people would say, like, look, I mean, EA should be bought out, or that Capcom should be bought out, or whatever. But we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. I mean, I knew that this was going to be one hell of a generation. I knew that this was going to be a lot of things that was going to happen, that was going to kind of turn gaming's head upside down. A lot of people didn't want to hear it, but I mean, here we are.
mhm.
So we'll see.
I'm
And one
excited,
thing that
to
that's
be
what,
honest with you.
well, yeah, you know what? There's only for me, as an Xbox gamer and to talk to other Xbox gamers, or just for the Xbox gamer on this aspect, don't be surprised if you get your feelings hurt because Sony or somebody else is going to get a studio that you want. Like let's say that Sony snags WB or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't see it happening
Just be
because of the Marvel.
hypothetical, but it's just
Yeah,
hypothetical.
because of the right, but hypothetical. Don't get mad at WB or don't get. I mean, this is business. This is how it is. It's just no different than how. Like, I'm not mad about the Destiny situation. I mean, well, Bungie situation. Like,
Yeah.
it is good for gaming. It's healthy because Sony needed to do something, and now it is what it is. Sony can't mess with Microsoft's money,
So
but
here's what
they can still throw a little shock and awe out
but
there,
here's what's
and
excited to
it's gonna
me.
be fun. It's gonna
We're,
be fun.
for a while, we've seen Microsoft realizing they have to compete against Sony, right? That's what all
Right,
these acquisitions are about. Like,
right,
obviously, right? And you and I have both kind of like, what's Sony going to do? Right? It's not like doom
yeah.
or gloom for Sony, but
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
are they going to acknowledge that they're more competition than they're giving them credit for? Does that make sense?
Right.
And and they're now acknowledging it, and they're now acknowledging their shortcomings, right?
Hitting that fast is definitely showing. Oh yeah, okay.
But they're
Xbox, you punched us in the mouth. All right, we got
but they're acknowledging their shortcomings by buying Bungie, right?
you. Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
they don't fall under the same umbrella as other acquisitions they owned. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's the hope that Bungie, brings more of those areas where that's lacking in their portfolio. It's a little more well-rounded in regards to that. So I think it's a really, really good thing. I'm honestly really proud of Sony for making that sort of move. I hope I see more moves like that because Bungie's not enough. No offense,
No,
Bungie's not
no, no,
enough,
no,
but I
no.
don't think they're sitting on their laurels, and they have some plans, and
But
start doing those lunch dates with steak dinners, right? Like
oh, you're right. You're
start
right.
start doing that and start wine and dining them, and we'll see where it goes in regards to this. And then the other thing is like we know they're going to do some sort of answer to Game Pass, a more heavy hitting thing in
Right.
Game
Yeah.
Pass, right?
Spartacus. Yeah.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be part of it. This is
Oh
going to
yeah.
be part of it in some sort of form or fashion. So
Oh yeah.
I think that's awesome. I really do because it's an area where they're not competing. They're not in the fight yet, and they need to get in the fight. So that's good. And
It's
so yeah,
no. Go ahead. Yeah.
no,
No. No. I was just gonna say. I was gonna say was that look, we are now actually. There should not be any debate anymore about who is the innovator in the gaming space now. No debate.
Nintendo.
Sony can make the
I
Nintendo.
mean, to be real,
Nintendo is the best. Nintendo is the best survivor. Out, man,
you
look,
talking about
we didn't say nothing
innovation?
about Nintendo.
You talking about
Yeah.
innovation? You have to give it to Nintendo. It's not Microsoft. It's not Sony. It's Nintendo.
No, the best the best
Innovator.
survivor. Innovate.
Yeah, because that's how they survive. They innovate or die, right? So every time they do something to keep
They
them relevant,
adjust.
they have to innovate something.
Well, okay. I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, like
I,
they people don't realize this. So remember when the Wii was so popular when it first came out, right?
oh yeah.
That whole even our cell phones have it today, right? But the I forgot what the sensor name is called when you tilt everything. I mean, almost every device has it now. They had that on the original GameCube development kits. They had it so you can tilt the controller, and it would do all that sort of stuff. And then it's a item they pulled from their device right before GameCube released.
Yeah, I still
'Cause of
can't give them the
cost.
best, the most innovator. I know that they can't. They're one of the best innovators, but I can't give them
Shoulder
that. I can't
buttons.
co-sign that one.
The
I,
first one that
I
introduced shoulder buttons. First one that introduced analog sticks.
yeah at the time, but they're
First one
not on that.
first one introduced
They're
Rumble Pack.
they're not they're not what they were.
First one to
Like
do
they're
nunchucks that
no,
every VR company copies now.
PlayStation was
What
really great at innovating and being
what did they
being the leader in innovating, but
the only thing really Sony was in the
disk
pioneer
drive.
or innovated it was disk drive.
Mhm.
And that was a misstep I would say on Nintendo's part on that,
Yeah, that was a huge misstep. Yeah.
but What else has Sony really innovated on? Was the first to
Oh
market
yeah.
too.
Another disk drive was there. Um, I don't. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Yeah,
Nintendo's a better innovator.
Microsoft,
You're
pioneered
right.
on some things on the
Mhm,
development side of things, and that's what they're really. It's always been their stronghold, in
mhm.
regards to that. But they didn't really innovate a ton either. It's just more iteration. Right?
What are you talking about? Microsoft has set the industry the way it is now.
Yeah,
What are you
they're
talking
setting
about?
trends, but it's not innovation.
Xbox Live is not innovation?
I would say Xbox Live's innovation, but what else?
Right. Xbox Live, the Connect, you know what I'm saying, the Connect was innovation. The way that we play and the advertising aspect of it, that is damn sure innovation because they were the ones that pushed it out. Sony had the best marketing on with advertising, but the way that they implemented it to the game and then put this whole computer uh PCS console hybrid thing with the 360 or even with the Xbox, the OG Xbox, that's innovation. They have set the tone ever since they got the ball rolling with the 360. I mean, people could go back and say like the Xbox One, because there was things that they did. I mean, the OG Xbox, but their innovation, they're the ones to me is the leaders of innovation with gaming by far at this point. When you go about for what you said, but what Nintendo offered at that time, yes, you're right. They better than
Overall, if you look at the history of all three companies,
Nintendo's been
Nintendo has
around
made
for
more permanent marks on the industry than any other company.
Nintendo's been around way longer than Xbox has. So I mean, with that's
I get that, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
just overall, yes, who has
yeah.
innovated something and then it's been widely adopted by everyone?
Mhm.
Has the most marks on the board.
Okay, yeah, they've been out longer, but Xbox has clearly changed the game into where
No,
even Nintendo is
I'm
now
sure.
forced
Yeah, the
to do
games as a
things like that.
service and all other stuff, and
Yeah,
they're
and
doing fine.
service, all of that.
I'm not saying they don't have their marks on it. And
Right.
to be honest with you, I don't think really Sony's made that much of a mark. They've always kind of followed. They've what they did is took innovations and then brought those innovations to mass market, right?
The
So
mass market,
yeah,
right.
so and then these are not knocks on these companies. I'm just saying like you have to give credit
You
where
can
credit's
also
due. So
Yeah, true, but you also gotta give Sony the marketing edge because nobody is marketed as good as what
it's
PlayStation
not
does. I mean,
innovation. That's just marketing.
but yeah, but the way
Marketing
that
has existed longer than gaming. So
right,
it's
but no, hear
yeah.
me out. Hear me out what I'm saying by this. They have take something that was looked at as a genre that was, we're in our 40s, where gaming was just nerd stuff. They took PlayStation and made it into what it was. We all love Nintendo, we always will,
Yeah.
but Nintendo just didn't have that same type of gravitas as that what because PlayStation made it feel adult. Sega tried to get there. Sega was probably the closest, but trying to push out like, "Oh, we're more of
I think
adult."
Sony, Sega, and
Sony
Nintendo had
took
nothing
it
to
and
do with
maxed it
that.
out.
I don't think they had anything to do with that. I think it has to do with publishers and the games they wanted to make. So that's the industry as a
Well,
whole.
PlayStation at that time was doing the same thing that they were trying to do to kill off what they killed off Sega with, and what they tried to do to try to finish off Microsoft. They by doing not by having uh, games made for just only primarily for the consoles, but to also have timed exclusives on their console, and which made it look like that. Oh well, they have all these type of games, and then if you market, oh, we're a kitty box, we're an adult box, we're cool, we're hip,
Well,
we're into
I don't think you
well,
can give them the adult box check mark because here's the thing: the industry was going that way. Period. Anyways, regardless if Sony showed up to the market or not.
mhm.
Take Mortal Kombat, right? That was something that was pushed out to the market. Nintendo
But that's
didn't.
arcade
Yeah,
stuff.
but I'm just saying that's the industry making a product, right? And then
Mhm.
they're pushing it onto platforms like Sega and Nintendo, right? So
But look
that
at where arcades are. But look at where arcades are
that has
now.
nothing to do with what I'm saying. I'm saying
We're gonna disagree on this one, brother.
regardless of whoever the platform provider was, these games would have already existed. is what I'm saying. So Sony
No, I
didn't
got you on that.
Sony didn't create these genres, right? What they did essentially, and this is where I'll give them credit, what Sony actually did is they made it affordable to produce on their product, way more affordable. So that was the beauty of the disk drive and beauty of their publishing, basically strategy of the original PlayStation. Because a lot of the original PlayStation exclusivity has nothing to do with Microsoft. I mean, sorry, Sony giving money to these companies. It has everything to do with the fact it was cheaper to produce on their product overall, and it was more expensive to produce on Sega. So what in also Nintendo's N64 at the time. So what ended
Right,
up happening
right,
was,
right.
they evolutionized the publishing model.
Well, don't forget the Saturn was a disk drive as well too.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was a pain in the ass to program for.
Right, it was a pain in the ass. I
Yeah.
don't think
So
it was.
what you did is you
Sega.
reduce your overhead costs of producing a product, right?
Mm.
You undercut your competitors with publishing on the product, and you got more of a return. So that's what gave the huge influx of Sony properties, because you saw it like almost like the first year it was kind of like Saturn had the same amount of games roughly as Sony, right? And then about the second year you start seeing it ramp up, ramp up, ramp up, because it's just cheaper,
Right.
to do it. The PlayStation 2, they did start doing those marketing things where they started giving those kind of perks to companies to take the PlayStation a little bit more seriously than their competitor, the Dreamcast, and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, the Dreamcast had a lot of things going for it, but then it was also a little bit underpowered. So
Well,
that
yeah.
was the big problem. They missed the power market for that generation in time. So
Oh, yeah, they did, but I mean, but still, the Dreamcast is still considered the power aspect of it has always been irrelevant to me because there's always been a more powerful console. There's always been a less powerful console. It's more of about how at that particular time how what kind of games they had
well, that was the
available.
big challenge then. So like you didn't have the
Right, right.
resources you have today, where like you don't need as much power to produce the games that we have, right? Like we have a lot of fat on the bones. Back then, you didn't have a lot of spare cycles to spare on the products you're producing. So if you take like your resources, you just didn't have the resources. So it was a disk space related thing, because it isn't PlayStation 2 when DVD drives were introduced, if I remember correctly.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah, that's why I think that's when they introduced DVD, because then
yeah,
PlayStation 3 was Blu-ray,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
so
yeah.
you
When it,
have more mass
yeah.
storage. That's what really killed them, and then they missed the power mark. And then that once you have the power mark, and you can pull from those resources, it's easier to develop on your product.
Well, yeah, I think Sega was trying to go another direction with the VMUs, trying to use that as their like instead of trying to follow what Sony was
I
doing.
think that's just trying to be in that innovative space,
Right. They're
in
just trying to
regards to that.
innovate.
It didn't catch
Right.
on for sure.
So,
But yeah, I mean, they also beat them to the market. So like when you beat your competition by a year and a half to the market, the question is, were you too early, or or should you have waited and double down on power? And I think time goes on, where they made the mistake there was doubling down on the power and
yeah.
capabilities. So
Yeah, I hear that, but like I said, I mean, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. I just can't. Sony made it because when you brought up the situation with the arcades, yeah, they were trending to go in this direction to having more mature games. But remember, the format of how arcade is compared to a gaming console, there's a lot more consoles that consoles get into your home. And
mhm.
so therefore, once it can get into the home, it has a lot more access to for people have a lot more access to that machine. Arcades, people can okay, like for instance, like with the whole where the government was going after Mortal Kombat and other type of violent type of
Yeah,
games.
yeah, it was an issue back then.
Yeah, and then there was parents that would keep their kids away from the arcades. Well, we don't want you to play those type of games. But then yet on the flip end, the kid be like, "Oh man, Mortal Kombat's on this console right here."
Hmm.
And then the parents just sees doesn't pay attention to why of what was being said about Mortal Kombat because they're just looking at the console. They're not thinking about like, the whole situation. So that's why I'm saying like to me, PlayStation made it more popular to make to get into gaming
I
while
think they were just
arcade.
at a right place at the right time. I don't think they had
Oh
anything
yeah,
to do with it. Like that's the thing. It's like they didn't stop it like Nintendo did. Like Nintendo was very
Nintendo was
restrictive
always
on their mature
yeah,
titles, right? But but
and
Sega
kid
didn't.
friendly and all that
But
stuff.
Sega
Yeah,
didn't. Sega wasn't restricted at all. So the precedent was done way
yeah,
before Sony came to market, right? So they
right.
just embraced what someone else did, which was be more of an open platform versus a restricted platform like Nintendo's approach was. And that business model was established before them, which was Sega. But neither Sega or Sony or Microsoft or none of those pushed those to the mainstream. They just happened to come to the ether, right? These publishers wanted to do those sort of things, and so it's just the right place at the right time, and technology would just come into a forefront. I don't think they
I
innovated
mean,
anywhere in that space at all.
I agree with it to a certain extent, but no,
I mean, it's
I'm not
them taking
gonna.
credit
I'm not gonna.
for nothing they
I'm not.
didn't do. I mean,
I
that's
mean, but I'm not. I'm not. I can't look. Sometimes when you get into a position when you, uh, if you get into an opportunity that's lucky, right? Like there's no doubt that it was the right place, right time, but they took full advantage of it, and that's why I got the
so did
marketing
Sega.
situation. Like, yeah, but Sega never caught up to Nintendo, never caught up to
I understand
PlayStation.
that,
They're both
but those are two different things.
right.
Like, you're talking about you give them credit for bringing mature titles
And
to the market.
no, I
It's
was
not that
talking about
credit to take.
being innovative, and you're saying that, well, it's marketing, but I'm saying their marketing strategies was innovative because there was nobody doing it the way that PlayStation was doing it. Sega did try to make that stance, but they didn't do it the way that PlayStation does it. And even to this day, like even Xbox struggles to even try to market the way that PlayStation markets. Xbox is a hell of a lot better than what they were at the 360 era. Xbox taught was at a lucky place at a lucky time, right? Their marketing was fantastic. What they were doing with putting in movies and stuff like that. That's why I was saying
I don't think
that
marketing is innovation unless you're doing it in a different way that no one else has ever done
w-
before.
nobody wasn't seeing marketing and advertising on consoles before until 360 did it. Nobody wasn't seeing. I don't ever
You're talking
recall.
about on the platform that's done on. So okay, you can say like
Right,
marketing
and
on Twitter would
and
be innovation, or you take marketing on Facebook being innovation at one point in time because no one else was doing. I get you on that front,
yeah.
but
Right. And then like with movies, like I know that Sony may have tried to push it, but I never seen it done like with like the biggest one of the biggest movies that came out that Transformers showing a 360 transform into a little transformer. I ain't never seen nothing like that before. Like that was crazy. Like so, it's you're right. It's luck, but it's also the thought process of being innovative to have the mindset to be innovative to say, look, let's try this, and then hey, it's either a go or it's not. And I just look at Sony just being better at it than anybody. Microsoft is
I just don't
good.
look at them as innovators. I mean,
I know.
I don't think they're a bad company. Like, I mean,
Well,
obviously,
they copied their ass off. Don't get me wrong,
yeah, the
especially now.
majority of what their success
Yeah,
is taking something and recognizing what for what it is, and
right,
doing it the Sony way, and that's not a
right.
bad thing. Like, I mean, that should be commended. Like, you look at PlayStation VR, it's not like they invented VR,
No, they
right?
didn't.
Matter of fact, those move sticks, they didn't even invent those.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you who
You,
moved who did
uh,
that.
I can tell you that was an invention that was existing on the NES. That
Oh,
the whole motion controls,
oh,
yeah, the
oh,
way it functions and way it works.
no. I got what you're talking about. I thought you were saying that Nintendo didn't do it because I was like, I don't know who did it after.
No. Nintendo didn't do
Oh,
like a move thing, but
all right,
I'm just saying. But so there
I
was a
got
third party that made a
you. Right.
control scheme, and it
Okay.
was based on a light and detected in XYZ
Yeah.
axis sort of thing, and so
Oh yeah, I got you.
anyways, I mean, so they take existing technologies, good ideas, and they refine them and they bring them to market to the masses. And I think they're really, really good at that. And I don't think they should ever stop at that, to be honest with you, because that's what people really like about Sony. But you know, innovating, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, like they introduced a second analog stick. Their first ones I can think about doing that maybe.
Mhm.
They I mean, cheap storage drives. So that was a big portion of what they
The
have to
the new
do.
car the memory card, but that was
I
I
think
would
it was
say
a I think it was a necessity because you were going to do a disk drive system versus cartridge. Because you had to address the issue that you couldn't save shit unless you do the memory card, right? Couldn't write on the
yeah.
disk. So it's so
You know, but I
so
mean, I can remember. Hold on, I can remember couldn't save on my Nintendo. And for
well,
certain games, you
certain
leave
games
it
wouldn't
on.
have that
Yeah,
feature. Certain ones
right,
wouldn't, right? But the
right,
ones that
right. So,
they have a basically a battery in there, and they would save your file like Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. So
right, yeah.
so there was a way. They just had they had to provide a solution to that problem. But I mean, and I don't want to come off like, hey, I don't think they've innovated a ton because they're obviously very successful. They're a very good company and all that sort of stuff. Um, but most of their ideas are stuff that already exists out there, and they take that stuff and then they make it mass market, and there's something to be said about that. But
Oh no, they
I
definitely.
wouldn't call them innovators in the gaming space. To be
Dot
honest with
is
you,
hard. Dot is dot.
I mean,
Dot is
real.
hard.
I'll be open. I mean, give me something. What
No,
else? What else do you think they innovated
well,
on?
no. What the whole point when I said what I said, right, before it led into this whole discussion,
Yeah,
was the whole reason of saying like Microsoft has set the tone because everybody is now following suit. Like, I mean, that like
they are setting the tone. They're
yeah, set the tone, right?
and that's not maybe necessarily, we can have the whole like if that's innovating or not sort of conversation, but
Mhm,
the bigger picture, what Microsoft did last generation leading into this generation really is like they knew they were losing the fight, right? So
mhm,
they brought their fight to their strengths. Does that make sense? And
right.
their strengths is scaling their games across multiple platforms, PC, right? Um, they can make a kick-ass console if they're focused. They're not focused on the wrong things, but focused on the right things. They can be the most powerful console for the money that you're going to purchase, right?
Mhm.
So they've done that not only once but twice since that big
Twice.
mistake, right? The
Mhm.
Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Series X, and sorry, Xbox One X, and then the Series X. Sorry, the names are obviously colluded together. So, but and they're doing well in the PC market, and now they have one of the biggest cloud servers, and so they're making that stream push that no one else is doing. And so now that they brought it to that section, now they're also taking it from the games as a service thing, and that's something they were heavily criticized for. I don't know how many years, 3 years,
Oh yeah, more than that.
3 years, and they're talking about Game Pass as a fad. It's going to pass on. People continue to argue it today because they don't want to be wrong.
Mhm.
That sort of thing, and obviously there's some pitfalls to doing those sort of business models, but they've set the pace, and then they said, okay, this business model works, and you're obviously seeing the benefits of this with their acquisitions and who they're trying to purchase and where they're trying to expand it, right? If they didn't believe it works at this point in time, they wouldn't be doing these acquisitions, would they?
No, no, it wouldn't.
So so there, I think masters, you do a lot of sports stuff, right? Sometimes it's trying to get the other team to play with your strengths. Does that make sense? And this is the game they played. They played to their strengths, and I don't even think games as a service, I would say Game Pass. The concept is not innovative, but how they pulled it off was they finally made it viable from a market standpoint, and I think that should be commended by quite a bit. So
Right, right.
yeah,
Because now look at
so
what
it's
Sony's
interesting.
doing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they like everybody it's like what you just said, that people keep trying to downplay what they were trying to do. And even Xbox gamers stopped Xbox from what their really true vision was. Just remember, like, I mean, if it wasn't they were all in about the TV motion pictures.
yeah,
They had a studio, they had all that. And gamers complained and didn't know, but it didn't like it. But now it's all like it's all good if gamers let them allowed the Xbox One to be what it was supposed to be, Xbox would have been so far ahead now. And it's just like with PlayStation. PlayStation had had it all right there in front of their face, but they just didn't know what to do with it when it came with because when they bought Gonkai. and then they had the streaming service. They just went about it the wrong way. They didn't know how to approach it. So it's
I think Gaikai's technology is pretty impressive, but the infrastructure that it runs on is poor.
right.
And so, and I think obviously using Azure is going to really help that cloud service, because like a lot of people always like
Oh
to
yeah.
shit on Gaikai, right? And that acquisition, and now referred to as PlayStation Now, but it's actually very capable. It just needs to needs better infrastructure, which is what they're getting through Microsoft now. So yeah, but then now they have to market it and they have to do all other stuff. And I thought of a Sony thing that they innovated on: adaptive triggers.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's an innovation. I mean, that's not something
That is.
seen in the controller world with that different
No.
resistances going on. So you have to give them credit where credit's due, and something like that. But they do a lot of good things, but innovation is not
You just
something
don't
that
want to
comes to
call
mind when when I think about them. In regards to,
Oh,
I mean, then again, doesn't mean
yeah.
they're a bad company. Some of the
No,
best
no, no, no,
companies
no.
take the best
I get it.
ideas and refine them. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at Streamlabs and what they did to OBS. And I'm
And some people love Streamlabs over OBS. Like,
well, I can't say because I like them both, but I thought they were the same thing. I was just like, oh, okay. But it's kind of crazy. But I gotta get out of here.
okay,
We got 30
you,
minutes before the
yeah.
next podcast starts.
Let's promote. What is it? Where are you going next? Right after this.
I'm going to Xbox 44H channel and to do the next podcast. So yeah, come and check us out over there in about 40 minutes. But I'm gonna go eat some because I haven't ate nothing today. The only thing I've had was this banana, and I only had a bite of this banana. So a couple of bites of it. So I need to, and this is organic banana too. So while you over there,
Organic. I mean, sure didn't
organic.
expire when it moved across the conveyor belt. If that was organic shit.
No, 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 no. We just got them just the other day, and yeah, they're already there's a couple of them already
Right.
turning. So
Were
yeah,
you at Whole Foods and you were wearing sandals? The dude's like, brah, nice sandals.
almost,
Is that what happened?
almost, but it was a little cold, so they were wearing socks with those sandals, bruh.
Brah.
But bruh. But yeah, man. But go check us out tomorrow. We'll be doing the GRG podcast, man. We have all three new arrivals to as guests. We'll have Yobi 70, that's Yobi 70, Zobi 70. We'll have I can't think of I always want to say Neo Wire. It's not Neo Wire, but
Mhm.
Neo Spark will join us
Nice.
tomorrow, and then also Xbox University. So they'll be our guests on the GRG podcast. So come and check us out. 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, man. And yeah, man, it's gonna be good, man. Me and Don will probably be doing some streaming as long as the internet holds up Saturday. And if GRG is done at a reasonable time, I might stream Friday night because I didn't get the chance to stream uh yesterday like I wanted to. So hope you guys will enjoy that. And Don, let everybody know where they can find you at, brother.
Yeah, the best thing to do is always follow me on Twitter, the Don_KTR. You'll see everything I'm involved with there. Anything from this podcast to any other podcast I may guest star on, live streaming, and my YouTube channel. All the links should be provided on K Mega's channel when you guys see this post live. But if you do want to catch us live, I will also provide the links for K Mega so you can catch us live. Normally, we try to shoot for every other Tuesday. We will have to see about what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks because I'm going to be out of town. So we may do an additional one next week, or we'll have to wait 2 weeks to do our next podcast. But we'll figure all
I
that
say
stuff out.
let's do an additional one. Let's go. Let's do it.
You're ready. You're hot, right?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm hot, ready. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, man.
I'm ready.
2022, man. We're
Yeah,
but by February we've already done more podcasts than we did last year.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. Well,
Hey
so
man,
that's
my goal is to get us to that 100 mark whenever we can, right? So
yeah,
all right. Well, this is episode 27. Definitely check out all the stuff we're doing. We're just I'm a developer and a gamer. K Mega's just a gamer that enjoys talking about games, and we're just keeping it simple, man. So see you guys later, and I'm gonna hit the button. Where's that button? Button.
All right. Peace, guys.